I quit investing $600 a month and moved every dollar of it into a savings account, paying 4.5% instead. Here is what happened. In 30 years, I never once watched my money go down. Not in a crash, not in a recession, not for a single month anywhere in that stretch. And I finished holding $455,632 in cash I could touch on any morning I wanted. It may also be the most expensive thing I have ever done with money, because that same quiet decision cost $900,661. Both of those sentences are true at the same time, and by the end of this you will have watched the second one happen month by month, instead of being told about it. I ran the entire 30 years on paper, both versions of me, the one who quit and the one who never did. 20 years of sitting on the wrong side of spreadsheets like this one has taught me that careful, responsible people make this move for reasons nobody can honestly argue with. Stay to the end, because there are situations where pulling your money out of the market and parking it somewhere guaranteed is the genuinely correct call, and I will show you every one of them. They exist, and they are far more specific than the internet lets on. Quick note before the numbers start. This is education rather than advice built around your situation. And no, I did not torch a real retirement account to make a video. I ran the experiment the way I run it for people every week, month by month across 360 months, with real compounding on both sides and the long-run average of a broad index fund, close to 10% a year with dividends reinvested. That is an average and not a promise, and we will deal with that honestly before the end. One small thing before we go in. If you have ever moved money somewhere safe and then spent years quietly wondering whether you did the right thing, tap the like button, because it costs you nothing and it puts this in front of the next person standing at that exact decision. Here is how it started. A statement arrived after an ugly stretch in the market, and the balance printed on it was smaller than the total I had personally deposited, which is a very particular kind of insult to open at a kitchen table. Meanwhile, a savings account down the street was advertising 4.5%, guaranteed, insured, no drama, no headlines. My $600 a month was going into an index fund automatically, and that automation suddenly felt less like discipline and more like negligence, so I canceled it. Not dramatically, not after reading anything, just 4 taps in an app on a Tuesday morning, which is how nearly every expensive money decision in this country actually gets made. The $600 started landing in the savings account instead, and I want to be precise about what happened next, because people get this part wrong in both directions. It worked. A savings account paying 4.5% is a guaranteed return of exactly 4.5%. And there is nothing fake or soft about that arrangement. Every dollar earned that rate, whether the world was ending or not, the interest showed up on schedule, and the number on the screen only ever moved in one direction. That is the whole appeal, and I need you to understand that the appeal is real. By the end of year 3, I was holding $23,080, every cent of it accounted for, and none of it at the mercy of anything happening anywhere. The version of me who kept investing was sitting at $25,069. Barely $2,000 better off for carrying all of that risk on his shoulders for 3 straight years. From where I stood, the choice had stopped looking cautious and started looking intelligent. Then came the year the market fell 37%, and I have never felt more correct about anything in my life. His $25,069 became $15,794 inside a few months, while my number did not move 1 inch in the wrong direction, because it structurally could not. I was ahead by more than $7,000, guaranteed against imaginary. And for about 2 years I was genuinely, measurably winning this argument. Year 5 closed at $40,287. Year 7 at $59,112. Year 10 at $90,719. Across 120 consecutive months, I had not seen a single red number, a single headline that mattered to me, or a single night spent checking a balance out of fear. By year 12, the account held $114,284, and the streak of perfect months was still unbroken. Then came the day I had been quietly counting toward for a decade. Month 130, 10 years and 10 months in, the balance crossed $100,281, 6 figures in cash, insured, liquid, available to me by lunchtime on any day I chose, built out of $78,000 of my own deposits, and not 1 minute of anxiety. Nobody had lent me anything, nobody could take it back, and nothing in the news had any say in the matter. If this video ended on that afternoon, you would open your banking app before dinner, and honestly I would not blame you for it. I told people about that balance, which is worth noticing, because I have never once told a living soul about a brokerage account. It felt like something I had built with my hands rather than something that had been done to me by a market I could not see. If this is landing close to home, Hit subscribe before we cross to the other side of the story, because the second half is the part almost nobody ever gets shown. It takes 1 second, and it tells the algorithm to put this in front of the next person about to cancel an automatic deposit and call it being responsible. Now I have to introduce you to the other version of me. Same paycheck, same expenses, same $600 a month, same everything down to the last detail, except he never touched the auto deposit and never once read a savings rate in his life. He was not braver than me, and he was not smarter than me. He was inert, and inert turned out to be a strategy. Year 5, he is at $46,462, which is not a LUD big enough to make anybody nervous. And year 10, he is at $122,907. Year 15 puts him at $248,682 against my $153,849, and by year 20 the two lines have separated into $455,621 against my $232,875. Nothing about that shape looks temporary anymore. Now walk back to my celebration, month 130, and look at his account on that exact afternoon. $139,772 against my $100,281 on identical deposits of $78,000. On the day I crossed 6 figures with a perfect record and told people about it, I was already $39,491 behind, and nothing on my statement was ever going to mention that fact. Here is where I get my shot though, because year 21 is when I finally ran this arithmetic instead of feeling my way through it. $250,923 was sitting in that account, and I moved the entire pile into the market in one transfer, the largest single financial decision of my life, then kept the $600 a month going for the 9 years that were left. He was at $510,870 on the day I did it. It did not matter. At year 30 I finished with $719,306, while he finished with $1,356,293, still $636,987 ahead of me after everything I had just done. I moved $250,000 in a single morning and could not close the distance, because the thing he was holding was never money. Had I never worked up the nerve to move it at all, the final scoreboard reads $455,632 against $1,356,293. That is a gap of $900,661, produced by a decision that never once appeared as a loss on any statement I received in 30 years of looking at them carefully. Let me say the entire sentence out loud, because it still sounds like a typo when I read it back. 30 years of never losing a single dollar cost $900,661. The safety was real, the sleep was real, the perfect record was real, and the bill for all of it arrived in the one currency nobody ever shows you, which is the money that was never made in the first place. One word explains the whole thing, and the word is runway. Compounding pays the earliest dollars far more generously than it pays the biggest ones, and it is not close enough to argue about. His very first $600 deposit, one transfer, made in a month neither of us would remember afterwards, was worth $11,804 by the end of year 30, entirely on its own. And the deposit he made a year later still finished at $10,685. Across the whole experiment he deposited $216,000 of his own money, which is exactly what I deposited, down to the dollar and down to the day. The market handed him $1,140,293 on top of that, and handed me nothing, because I had asked it for nothing. We contributed identically and finished $900,000 apart, which means none of the difference was effort, sacrifice, income, or discipline. Now the fine print. Because I promised you honesty, and because there is a real version of this story where the guaranteed choice comes out on top. Catch number 1 is the largest of them, and it is not the catch people expect to hear. Everybody in every comment section attacks the 10%, so let me attack the 4.5 instead, since that was the number sold to me as certain. A savings account pays you interest, and interest is ordinary income, which means it gets taxed every April at whatever bracket your job has already put you in. At 22%, my guaranteed 4.5% was never 4.5% at all. It was 3.51% every year, forever, and not one statement I received across 3 decades printed that number anywhere on the page. Run the 30 years again at the rate I was actually earning, and the pile is not $455,632. It comes in at $381,915. $73,717 of my guaranteed outcome was never mine to begin with, and it left in 30 separate pieces, each one small enough and ordinary enough that I never felt a single one of them go. So here is the dial. And this is the part genuinely worth pausing on. Measured against 3.51% guaranteed, a market running at its long-run 10% wins by $974,378, and at 8% it still wins by $512,301. At 7% the gap is $350,068, which is more than my entire safe pile ever became. At 5%, a return most people would call a bitter disappointment across 3 decades, the market still wins by $117,440. And at 4%, it wins by $34,515. At 3.51%, my own after-tax rate, the two versions of me finish exactly level. Only below that line does cash finally win, by $32,273 at 3%, and by $86,280 at 2%. There is the entire decision compressed into one sentence. Your break-even is not the rate on the poster. It is that rate after tax, and the market only ever has to beat the smaller of the two numbers. Guaranteed money gets advertised in gross dollars and delivered in net ones, which is why the safe option always looks close to a full % better than it turns out to be. To be fair in the other direction, the invested pile owes tax too, and I am not going to pretend otherwise. Sell all of it at the end and long-term capital gains take roughly 15% of the growth, which brings 1,356,293 down to 1,185,249. The answer does not change, because that bill gets paid once at the very end, instead of every April, for 30 consecutive years. Catch number 2 is the one that actually settles this, and almost nobody bothers to price it. Every number above is written in future dollars, and future dollars are smaller than the ones sitting in your pocket right now. At 3% inflation, my $381,915 buys what $157,344 buys today. That is the real return on perfect safety. Roughly 0.5% a year in purchasing power before a single fee is charged to anybody. His $1,356,293 is worth $558,775 in today's money, by the same measure. Safety never protected what my money could buy. It only ever protected what my money was called. Catch number 3 runs the other way, and it is the strongest argument the cash side has ever had. That 10% only exists for people who keep depositing through the stretches when it is clearly, visibly not working. If a 37% drop would make you pause the transfer, or sell at the bottom and wait for things to calm down first, then the guaranteed rate was always the better deal for you specifically. A 3.51% you actually keep collecting beats a 10% you panic out of, every single time, and nobody ever brags about that one publicly. Most people do not fail at investing because they picked the wrong fund or the wrong decade. They fail because 30 years is longer than any plan they have ever kept, and a mediocre plan that survives a bad decade is worth more than a brilliant one that gets abandoned in month 90. That objection deserves a real answer instead of a lecture, and the honest version is that almost nobody sticks to a 30-year deposit of any kind, in any account, anywhere. The difference is that a savings account is the easiest promise on earth to break quietly. No confirmation screen, no sense of occasion, no tax form, nothing that makes you stop and consider what you are doing. Which brings us to the last catch, and the one I never saw coming. Catch number 4 is liquidity, and it works in the exact opposite direction from the one you would expect. Everything I loved about that account, the fact that it was reachable, insured, mine, available by lunchtime on a bad Wednesday, is precisely the mechanism that emptied it. Money you can touch is money you eventually touch. Always for reasons that sound completely reasonable in the moment they arrive. Pull $4,000 a year out of that pile. One water heater, one transmission, one Christmas, 1 week somewhere warm, and the 30-year ending is not $455,632. It lands at $207,681. Convenience alone, with no crash and no genuinely bad decision anywhere in the story, quietly removed $247,951 from my life. A brokerage account is not more disciplined than you are, but it sits slightly further from your thumb than a savings app does, and slightly further turns out to be most of the game. There is a reason the people who threw every spare dollar at a mortgage so often finish ahead of the people who chose the safe account instead. The wall was never an investment strategy. The wall was a lock. Here is the part I refuse to soften, because the fear sitting underneath all of this is completely legitimate. Lose your job in year 12, and no chart on earth matters, since covering next month becomes the only question in the house. But the money that covers next month was never supposed to be 30 years of parked contributions. It is a funded emergency fund, and those are two different accounts doing two entirely different jobs. So when is pulling out of the market for something guaranteed actually the right call? Write these down, because they are far more specific than the arguments you will find in any comment section. Any money with a date attached to it inside about 5 years does not belong in the market, full stop. No exceptions worth the risk. A down payment you plan to use in 3 years, tuition due in 2, a surgery, a move across the country, the truck you already know is dying in your driveway. The average is a 30-year statement, and it makes no promise whatsoever about the specific Tuesday you need to spend the money. Your emergency fund belongs in cash permanently, and it should never once be measured against what the market did, because it is not an investment in the first place. It is insurance, and insurance is supposed to lose to the thing it protects you from. 3 to 6 months of real expenses, boring, liquid and untouched, and if that number feels oversized to you, remember that the layoffs which make people need it have never arrived on schedule for anyone. Inside about 2 years of the day the paycheck stops. The shape of the math changes completely. The problem stops being growth and becomes being forced to sell after a bad year in order to cover groceries, and the first handful of withdrawals does more damage to a retirement than any other stretch of it will. Guaranteed money covering those specific withdrawals is not timidity, it is engineering. And if you know honestly that a bad year would end you, then believe yourself and act accordingly. There is no version of this where the correct plan is the one you abandon at the worst possible moment. A smaller number you will actually hold for 30 years beats a larger number you will hold for 6. Before any of it, the order of operations still rules everything, and it has not changed in decades. Emergency fund funded first, then any match your employer offers, because free money outruns every rate on this list by a mile. High-interest debt comes after that, since nothing guaranteed anywhere on earth beats not paying 24%. Only then is any of this even a question worth asking. If you are still torn, do not quit. Split. 300 to the savings account and 300 to the fund is mathematically imperfect and psychologically excellent, which is a trade most people should take without arguing. You get to watch a safe number grow at a pace you can actually feel. The compounding half keeps its runway intact, and no version of you wakes up at 60 staring at a $900,000 hole. There is also a third door, and it is the one I use now. Put a ceiling on the cash, a hard number that covers your emergencies and anything with a date on it, then automate everything above that ceiling into the market on the same day every month, without looking at the news first. The pile stops being a decision you make over and over again, and becomes a container with a lid, which removes the exact failure that cost me $250,000. So I quit investing $600 a month and kept it in cash instead. What happened? Everything the safe choice promises. 30 years without one down month. $455,632 I could reach on any morning. Not one bad night of sleep in 3 decades. And everything nobody mentions. At an average return it cost $900,661. Both of those are true at once, and now you have seen both, which puts you ahead of nearly everyone who makes this call on a feeling. The lesson is not that cash is stupid, because cash does several jobs better than anything else on earth and always will. The lesson is that a floor is not a plan, and the price of a floor is never printed anywhere near the rate they use to sell it to you. Run your own numbers before you move real money. Your rate after tax, your timeline, your honest tolerance for a bad decade. If watching a $600 transfer swing $900,000 changed the way you think about the word safe, tap that like button and subscribe, because the next person about to do this on a Tuesday morning might be somebody you love. Tell me in the comments what your safe money is earning and whether you would have quit, and I will read every one of them.